This episode contains strong language and discussion about gender dysphoria, eating disorders and self-harm, which some viewers may find distressing. The information shared in this episode is based on personal research and experience. If you've been affected by the themes in this video, please remember you're not alone and support is available. Please check the links in the description for help.
There's nothing wrong with being trans. The thing that's wrong is being denied access to healthcare. The thing that's wrong is being shut out from spaces. The thing that's wrong is politicians essentially arguing that we should be segregated and pushed out of public life. The thing that's wrong is women having their fears weaponized in order to harm trans people. I went to my GP and I said, I think I'm trans and I don't really know what to do, but I think that I want to transition and begin the process. And he had no idea. He'd never met a trans person before. He was a really nice guy, but he was like clueless to like what to do. And I think in that moment, I just felt really disappointed because I was like, you're the doctor,
right? And
I'm the patient and you are Googling what to do with me whilst I'm sat next to you. And like that's still happening too. Training for NHS professionals about how to look after trans people is woefully lacking. So he Googled what to do with me and then referred me to a psychiatrist. And then I got diagnosed with gender dysphoria. But the questions that I was being asked by the psychiatrist was like, are you wearing women's clothing full time? And I was wearing, you know, at the time I was wearing kind of like these like flannel trousers and flannel top as well, like kind of like a cotton top. Just like very basic. It was all like women's clothing from the women's section, but you know, it's whatever that is. It's like, it just felt like really weird to me that he had to ask, and it was almost like accusatory. Like, I don't believe that you're a woman because you're not wearing a dress, right? Even though they were women's clothing.
I find it really interesting that back then, the criteria to like validate your womanhood was based on such a narrow, stereotypical, you know, one size fits all idea.
It still is. It still is. It's still, the guidance is still, you need to live in your acquired gender for 2 years before you access hormone replacement therapy. But what does that look like? Because it's different for everybody.
Yeah.
It's not a one size fits all situation.
One thing that I can't stop coming up inside of me is as I'm listening to you and I've heard everything that you've gone through and all your experience and all your pain, I do not, for the life of me, understand how anyone can respond with anything other than empathy. Because you and every trans person, you have been put through so much pain and injustice and treated as less than for so long. And I cannot understand how anyone, especially cis women, could react with anything other than empathy. I understand that, you know, trans people have been turned into scapegoats, that there's widespread conditioning happening in our media with our politicians. And that's why some women, some TERFs have decided that trans people are the problem. But I think on a human level, if you can access a bit of fucking empathy, and just, see that humanity, see that side and realize you are fighting the wrong enemy. We all are, whether it's, as you say, whether it is racism or ableism or transphobia or homophobia. Guys, we're looking in the wrong direction. We should be looking at patriarchy and white supremacy and the super rich and politicians, you know, we are being tricked.
Yeah.
And I think that was so evident recently with the UK Supreme Court in all their infinite ignorance, making their ruling of what counts as woman, you know, what a woman is legally, which was heartbreaking.
On a board. I mean, the Supreme Court ruling wasn't actually about what is a woman. It was made to be that by the political establishment and the media, but it was about who is a woman on a board.
Right.
So it in itself, no court can decide who is a woman. That's way beyond the reach. Womanhood is global. So to think that we can contain what is a woman between the walls of Britain is really quite wild. It's a global experience. It's what it means to be human. Womanhood and transness is older than the courts. So the idea that a court can rule that 5 white people over the age of 50 can decide for everybody in Britain what is a woman, and then Keir Starmer can trot out and say, well, I agree. Like, I don't care what Keir Starmer thinks, and neither should you.
No,
I don't
nor
even
should
think
anyone,
Keir
I don't-
Starmer knows what he thinks. It's one thing today, and then it's another thing, whatever's politically advantageous the next. But I think what we need to question and what we all need to explore is behind the anger and behind the apathy that people have towards trans people, there's pain. And everybody has felt pain within their gender. Everybody is experiencing pain within their gender. And trans people have become the scapegoat for that pain. Women are afraid of men. Men are afraid of each other. Men are afraid of themselves. Men don't have an outlet or an understanding of what being a man is outside of these prescriptive roles that society sets for them, that is making them miserable. Women often don't feel like they are women enough. Women feel pressured to have children before a certain time. Women feel unsafe walking the streets. Women know other women who feel unsafe and have been unsafe or have been attacked. Trans people see all of this and still need to deal with not being believed that we are who we are, and face roadblocks and gates and slam doors at every single turn, just wanting the chance to be free. Trans people are just not only being scapegoated for the violence of men, but we're being scapegoated for the pain of gender that everybody is feeling, because there is no right way or wrong way to be a woman or a man, but we are so jailed by society and guilted into being someone that we don't really feel free in being. So it's easier to slam and condemn and harass and segregate and erase people that feel free within their gender, rather than going and understanding what that freedom means and feels for themselves.
And another thing I don't understand is how people who are transphobic, who are scapegoating trans people and trans women especially as the root of all problems, even if you successfully were to eradicate trans people, which you're never going to do because, you know, trans people have always existed across all cultures, the problems are going to remain. And then what are you going to do, babe? Who are you going to blame next? You know, who is the next scapegoat? I can say with my whole chest, with my whole 2 titties, that a trans woman having her rights and being a woman takes nothing away from me. Absolutely nothing. Because I truly believe that there is room, there is space here. And even though, you know, I, as a cis woman, I am experiencing misogyny and the impact of living under patriarchy, I still feel like reaching out a hand to a trans woman and saying, yes, come with me, like there is space for us. What is it taking from me? It's not, if anything, it's bolstering, you know, it's unifying.
Solidarity, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, the next scapegoat after trans people is women. Because if we are going to eradicate trans people that show that there's more to just being a body, and there's more to being seen as your gender as having certain bodily functions, such as being able to give birth, then you reduce women to just solely a body. And a bodily function, which means that you can control women in that bodily function. And we've already started to see that be the case with talks of the government in America paying women to have children, of Elon Musk talking about there being not enough children being born, in the complete erosion of Roe versus Wade. Trans rights and women's bodily autonomy, pregnant people's bodily autonomy is two in the same. Just because you don't think that certain people should be having abortions doesn't mean that nobody should be able to have abortions. Just because you don't agree with somebody transitioning doesn't mean that you should stop people from medically transitioning. It also doesn't stop these things from happening. People will still have abortions, they'll just be unsafe. Rich people will still be able to have abortions anyway. This is about controlling the majority. So yeah, I hope that more and more cis women wake up to the fact that once trans people have been scapegoated, it silos cis women into a very narrow idea of what being a woman is, and then that itself will scapegoat women too.
And we're already seeing that with the accounts of cis women who are receiving transphobia for being perceived as trans. And that is just going to get more and more extreme.
Yep.
Until we just have to be, you know, like homogenous photocopies of one another in order to even be perceived as woman.
And that in itself is racist also. There's massive parallels between racism and transphobia in the prescriptive ideas of what is beautiful and, you know, what is extremely narrowed and like measured up to Eurocentric ideals. So, I mean, you can just look into sports and like Caster Semenya, like having to take hormone suppressors to have the same levels as an average white woman. Women don't look the same throughout the world. And we're just seeing a very narrow idea being pushed that is largely Eurocentric, that everybody is having to adhere to. Being trans is not new. We say it all the time, but on every single continent, in every single culture, trans people have existed in one way or another and will always exist. You can't kill hope. You can't kill hope. Like in the most bleak circumstances, in every single culture, in every single circumstance, there will always be a resistance. And I guess that is what being trans is in one way or another. It's the complete refusal to be miserable. And a lot of people would rather be miserable and project that misery onto other people rather than ask themselves, who am I? Who am I beyond this misery? Who am I beyond this anger? Who am I beyond this apathy? You know, if you can sit by and watch a community that is too small to defend itself, you know, less than 1% of the population, be scapegoated for the violence of cis men. If you can sit by and see that happen, then you're numb in yourself. You're numb in your identity as a person. I really feel like trans rights and the war on trans people is somewhat of a litmus test for what we will allow in our culture. If you can sit by and watch trans people be completely destroyed, then, you know, what's to say that women can't be completely destroyed? What's to say that, you know, a religious faith is no longer something that's protected? What's to say that, you know, abortion rights aren't next? What's to say that gay people will be next and gay marriage will be next? All of these things that we just think are set in stone, they're not set in stone. Trans rights were hard won and they're being dismantled like that. And that's the thing, is being trans is literally just one way to be human, and being human is hard. I was on the TikTok and there was this woman talking about the hole that we have inside of ourselves that we want to fill up, and whether or not that's drink or whether that's drugs or whether that's sex or whether that's compulsively exercising, or whether that's self-comparisons or whether or not that's entering relationships or having a kid or whatnot, that thing that we feel is going to fill up that hole is not something that's wrong with us, it's being human. And we constantly feel like there's something wrong with us. And I really want to reframe or help to reframe, along with many other people, that there's nothing wrong with being trans. The thing that's wrong is being denied access to healthcare. The thing that's wrong is being shut out from spaces. The thing that's wrong is politicians essentially arguing that we should be segregated and pushed out of public life. The thing that's wrong is women having their fears weaponized in order to harm trans people. The thing that's wrong is us not recognizing that the parallels are very close to what Black people were treated with back in the day. When we're talking about segregation of bathrooms, it's not that long ago that that was happening with Black people. The problem is not us. The problem is society and the way that it's set up. We shouldn't have escalating rates of misogynistic abuse and a culture that's spiraling, creating a hostile environment for women and girls. And we shouldn't have a culture that's, veering more towards the right, where we're going after DEI, we're going after people fleeing war and conflict, where we're going after people just wanting to transition in dignity, where we're going after people who are disabled, who want benefits that allows them to live their own lives. The problem is society, and society involves us all. So unless we're all willing to flip the narrative and understand that being human is messy, but we need to support each other.
Yeah.
We need to embrace that mess rather than trying to oversimplify absolutely everything and fit it into neat boxes, that women behave like this, that men need to behave like this. It's not working for anybody. Men are miserable, and that's why they're making everyone else's lives miserable. We don't have like a male loneliness epidemic. It's that the way in which society is telling men to behave and interact with each other is so limiting that it itself is creating men to be lonely.
We have a toxic masculinity epidemic.
Yes.
100%. Do you think it would have been different, your journey and everything you went through to become who you are? Do you think you would have done anything differently, let's say, if it was now and, times were a bit different?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, at times, acted like a complete maniac. Yes. But, we all did. That's being a young person. And there's such a frenetic, frantic feeling that comes with being a young person with unbalanced hormones and a world that is telling you to be someone that you're not. And I think it's a process of just throwing everything at the wall and seeing what sticks. And I would have loved to have thrown less things at the wall. The process of understanding who we are is extremely messy, and it involves mistakes, it involves missteps, it involves things that we wish we could take back, but it also involves learning from those lessons. And we wouldn't learn from those lessons if we hadn't thrown everything at the wall. And then there's part of me that just thinks if I didn't throw it at the wall then, I'd be throwing it at the wall now. So I'm really glad that I lived out loud and that I just went for it. And I would really suggest throwing everything at the wall as long as it's healthy for you and not running away from yourself. I regret running away from myself. That's the thing that I regret the most, or punishing myself, whether it's not eating or whether it's cutting myself or whether it's entering relationships with people that I know didn't love me because I didn't love myself. And I wish that I dealt with my pain better, with my anger better. But it's the acknowledgement that those mistakes are who I am, and they helped me learn the lessons that I needed to learn in order to become the person that I am today. And I'm not a perfect individual. None of us are. But I feel a calmness with myself that I've never felt. And I feel like I want to help other people feel that calmness. I want other people to feel that pride in the imperfections and to just be whoever they want to be, however that looks.
And that's hard won babe. You've gone through it. You have been through the flames.
Yeah.
So looking back over everything you've been through and everything that's happening now in our current climate, is there anything that you would say to maybe your younger self or young trans people now in what they're dealing with?
I mean, I would love to give my younger self a hug and just say you need to be on your own side. You can't and you won't get through this if you're not. And it's difficult because being trans is such a feeling of almost not recognizing yourself. So to say that you have to be on your own side when you don't feel like you are the person that you want to be is such a big ask. It's so hard, but you've only got one body. And if at the very least, what you can do is protect the body that you're in, I would say that to myself, is that you can't become the person you want to be by destroying the person you are now. And I guess that I would want to pass that on to younger trans people, because I know that being denied puberty blockers, feeling hopeless about the political environment, feeling unlistened to by the political establishment, being almost dehumanized, very much dehumanized by the media or erased by the media, being unlistened to by your parents or being bullied by your peers. It's so difficult to say you need to be there for yourself when no one's being there for you. But you will be the constant throughout your life. And there will be a time when you will be able to be there for yourself. So do it for your future self. Like, be kind to yourself, even when people aren't being kind to you. Treat yourself as if you are the person that you want to be now, because you will still be the person that you are now. It's difficult to put into words, but when I began my transition, I almost felt I'm going to become a better version of me. I'm going to become someone different. I'm going to become the person that I want to be. And lo and behold, you transition and you're still the same person.
Yeah.
And you've got the same memories, you've got the same traumas, you've got the same dreams, you're still the same person, but you've done yourself damage because you believed what people were saying to you. So don't believe them. Like, be kind to yourself, because you are the person that's doing this for you. So get yourself through it in one piece, and just don't keep it all inside. Your people are out there, and it takes some finding, a little trial and error, but make sure that you are putting yourself out there and not keeping it to yourself. One of the most important lessons that I learned was that every single one of our feelings is not unique. They are universal. We share them across the world. With social media not being prevalent when I transitioned, I felt like I was the only one in the world that felt how I felt. And then, now with social media, everyone's sharing their feelings, and you're like, wow, I thought I was just weird, and I thought that I was the only one that felt like this. And even though social media can be isolating, it can also be extremely connective in that way. So yeah, express yourself and find your people and be kind to yourself.
I would give younger you a hug as well. We'd have a big old hug.
We'll go to the green room.